And now, Bob Coulombe.
The morning of 9/11, I was Mr. Mom. My wife Carol was on her way to New York City to appear on national television, NBC, the next star stage and screen. The phone rang, and it was Carol, but there was no preamble conversation. You must go to the television. An airplane has hit the World Trade Center. My brain locked. I couldn't comprehend this. How could that possibly happen? And I went to the television, and I could see the smoke emanating from the first building. And within a moment, I could see the second plane coming around and striking the second tower. And I said to Carol, we're at war, and I'm going. I was the chief of a volunteer ambulance service in my community, and I anticipated that we would be going down there forthwith. I could not begin to anticipate the number of casualties that would be occurring. I said to Carol, shut down your company and evacuate your personnel and get out of New York City now. I will take care of the kids, everything will be fine, and I will call you. I hung up the phone, told her I loved her, I hung up the phone, and I took one last look at the television, and this white fear coursed through my body. It was the same fear that I had the day I got my orders to go to Vietnam. That fear was that I could die. I knew I was going to a very, very dangerous place. Turned off the TV, I organized my corps, and I called my county management control to where I should report, and I was told to go to the Yonkers Raceway. A huge parking area, obviously, where some 10,000 persons could go see horse racing. We were beginning to stage apparatus. When I arrived there, you can only imagine the level of intensity, the adrenaline run that was coursing through not only my body, but every person on every piece of apparatus that was pulling in. In my mind, I was going down to one of the largest issues that I would ever have to contend with as an EMS person. I couldn't even actually comprehend it, but I could vision that debris coming down onto that plaza. Could not imagine how we could save people down there. When I got to the site, I parked my ambulance where other ambulances were parking, and I asked, where's the incident command? And what began was another day of immense, immense confusion, because in my mind, there's an organization, there's a system, but it had completely collapsed. The incident commander was a young lieutenant from the Yonkers Police Force. He had no idea because he was getting no input. He was on a phone. The Yonkers Fire Department sent a truck, a command center. It hadn't been opened, I'm guessing, 20 years, because inside there was nothing in it, not even a chair. People were coming to this young man and saying, when are we going? Now, when I say people, before the mid-afternoon had arrived, 385 pieces of apparatus and over 1,500 people were staged there. Every single soul on that property wanted to do one thing: get down there and help, because that's what we were trained to do. No advice, no direction, no communication, no food, no water. We had to break into the facilities of the raceway to relieve ourselves. And this confusion was compounded by hundreds and hundreds of civilians walking to us, everyone with the same urge, the offer to help, the intensity in their souls of doing something. Name a skill set, it arrived. I was so frustrated because I could not get to go. Some of those services were so jacked up, so high on adrenaline, They simply overrode the command to stay in place until ordered, and they went on their own. About 11 o'clock that night, we were told, go home. What? How could we not have been needed down there? How could we send these guys back to Pennsylvania, back to Rhode Island, to Massachusetts, to Vermont? They hadn't moved an inch. They sat here all day. I went home. I was beyond frustrated, beyond angry. By the way, I never went to Vietnam. To this day, I don't know why. To this day, I regret that I didn't go, because that's where my brothers went. And that night, I was reliving that I could not, one more time, go do what I'm trained to do. But the next morning, I got a call. Can you bring your ambulance down to the Trade Center? And we proceeded down. We didn't get there till that evening. I checked in for credentialing, and a police officer in a golf cart took me. I was the chief of the crew, if you will, and my crew, and we started towards the site of the World Trade Center. When we turned the corner and drove down toward the Millennium Hotel, I saw the pile, and I started to cry. I could not comprehend this massive cauldron of fire, smoke, dust, destruction, and how these people were making their way through that was simply beyond my comprehension. I brain locked. I remember walking to the edge of the pile and peering in and looking at pieces of steel and concrete and asking myself, how the hell do we even move this? How did I get in to find these people? And through that, I got a call. My first patient was being brought to me by some firemen. He was being carried to me on a Stokes basket. They brought him to my ambulance, we offloaded him, and as we began to assess him, he had broken ribs, a huge laceration on his leg, he'd fallen on a piece of steel. He was in a heck of a lot of pain. And I realized, I know that I'm standing here, but I don't even know how to get to St. Vincent's Hospital. I've been in this area 100 times, but I could not figure out, with everything around me so surreal to me, how do I get to the hospital? And so I asked the fire guys, can you help me out? I need to get to St. Vincent's with this kid. He said, stand by one. And two police officers on motorcycles appeared and said, follow me, Cap. And we did. As we went to the hospital, this kid, this 22-year-old boy, is thanking us for helping him. And I'm asking myself, what's wrong with it? Who is this young man? What an extraordinary soul. What an extraordinary soul. When we arrived at the hospital, what occurred blew me away forever. As we pulled into the emergency room, persons converged on my ambulance by the dozens. Every one of them asking and screaming out, who do you have in your ambulance? Is this person my loved one? Was the universal question. But the pain, the anxiety, the magnitude of this was simply overwhelming. And all I could say was, I am so sorry. This is a young man from the pile. And people behind who could not get close enough were waving pictures. And every single EMS person who drove an ambulance with a wounded person to that hospital in places all around the city endured that every time they went to the hospital. And it was heartbreaking. The police brought me back to my site, to my duty station, and I pulled up in front of that pile again. And I sat down on the bumper in front of the ambulance, and I looked out there, and I finally calmed down, because now I knew that my job was to take care of hurt people. That's the best I can do. I will do it really well, and the rest is just beyond. Thank you.